Hey, Ashley, what did you learn this week?
Hey, Stacey. What did I learn this week? Well, did you know that roller coasters were originally invented to prevent us from sinning?
Come again?
Yeah, that's why they invented them, to distract us from sinning. And I went through all of the sins and I decided that I could do most of them on a roller coaster.
Ooh, can you give me some examples?
Uh, Not that wouldn't get me fired from this podcast.
They eat a hot dog on a roller coaster, maybe?
You'd have to eat a lot of hot dogs. The sinning, isn't it just sort of like your perception? Maybe gluttony is one hot dog to some, but to me, it could be 40 hot dogs, you know?
I wonder if you could do one of those hot dog eating contests on a roller coaster.
On a roller coaster, that sounds like a great way to throw up all over everyone behind you. I'd want to be in the front.
Yeah, I think that would be a
yeah.
single rock for you.
I know. Also, what a tremendous effort to put forth to be like, the people around me, they're doing a lot of sinning. You know what'll probably cure that if I make them scared for 90 seconds. And it also takes away the idea you have to be in line for like 2 hours. That's way too much idle time.
And idle hands are the devil's workshop, or at least that's how it goes.
So it's really, I think that it was poorly planned, and it's definitely not in the Bible.
Well, and weren't roller coasters originally just the wood kind, and you kind of go up, like it was more of like an undulation. I don't know if that would really scare the sin out of me.
Have you ever been on a wooden roller coaster?
Yes.
I have too. Kennywood.
I walked off with that.
Pennsylvania. You walked off as a bad influence? Yeah, Kennywood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has wooden roller coasters, some of the oldest ones, the Jackrabbit, and I think the Thunderbolt. And there is a certain amount of terror that comes into just being on a wooden roller coaster run by 16-year-olds. So you are a bit more scared. And that is also another piece of it. Roller coasters are often run by teenagers. They're sinning aplenty. See, this was a bad idea. Whoever created this. There you have it. There you have it. All right, everybody, let's get this show started. No more sinning.
This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Welcome back, Alphas. We have a great show for you today with a very special guest. We're going to be joined in a bit by retired U.S. Army General Barry McCaffrey. In 1996, when he retired after 32 years of service, he was the most decorated general serving in the Army, with 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, and 2 Silver Stars. After military service, he has served in many academic and government capacities and is currently president of his own consulting firm based in Alexandria, Virginia, and serves as a national security and terrorism analyst for NBC News. But before we get to the general, we need to bust another Legion myth on Troll Patrol. Here we go. All right. Can you see that comment there? What do you think, Stacy? Read it for us.
Murphy Mountain, I think that's MTN. You're only good enough if you served during wartime. If you served in peacetime, forget it. I've heard this trope going around a lot. And I think it's quite a misnomer. And so for whoever told you that, Mr. Murphy Mountain, I'm sorry. That was not accurate and not right at all. What do you think, Ashley?
I think Murphy Mountain lives in his parents' basement. You're only good enough if you served during wartime. If you served in peacetime. If you're in it's peacetime, you're still training to go to war, right? You're not just like hanging out playing wiffle ball. This is also the same idea where they're like, well, if you weren't infantry, you weren't even actually in the military. And you're like, stop it. Just stop it. Like,
yeah. I think they wrote songs about me. I'm a pogue. There's a person other than grunt.
Yeah, you're really a nonner. Yep.
Oh yeah. And actually, I took that comment completely a different direction. Where I guess you're saying this person said if you didn't serve during wartime, forget, like you're not really a veteran? Is that how you took it?
Oh yeah, that's completely to me what they're saying. I see this kind of stuff on pages all the time with like you weren't even in the military if you're that, like you were basically an admin assistant is what this
Oh
person
man.
is saying. And
Well, what an ass. I didn't read it. Sorry. I guess I'm too naive because I guess I thought somebody said that to him. But hey, Murphy Mountain, I guess I mean, that's your opinion. And like my grandma said, opinions are like a-holes. Everyone's got one and they all stink.
They all, I like how she added that on. That was great. Yeah, we can't have this mentality. Why would you want to rip down all the people that are choosing voluntarily to join the military? Peacetime, wartime, whenever anybody is willing to join, I am not going to put them down one iota. No, Murphy Mountain. We're not having it here at the American Legion. And we hope that we have changed your mind. We do.
I will say one more thing, not to beat a dead horse here, but for all of those who did go to combat, it took several thousand people in the rear who didn't go to support them. And so it's all one team. I don't discount anybody who's been in the rear keeping us in the fight. It all works together, one team.
One team, one fight. And you never know who's a spy. You know, you could have people that are around you that you could have a military spouse that is a spy, not against the United States, but for the United States. She just can't talk about it. All right. So maybe just clam up. American Legion, we were founded on the principle of checking your rank at the door. So wartime veterans have always been eligible for membership, regardless of where they served. And I know that hey, super producer Holly waved me off and it put me off. She's like, don't go down that track. Just keep ripping on that guy. Screw you. Yeah, you just don't know. You don't know what somebody else's job is. I live that life almost constantly where I'm like, that person is probably a hitman or a spy and I'm not going to mess with them. It's another Ashley rule. Don't mess with anybody that's got a face tattoo. All right, Alphas. We'll be back for OCHAD 30 with General McCaffrey right after the break.
As a veteran, you've done more than your fair share of providing support. Now it's our turn. Introducing the WellCare and the American Legion Partnership and the WellCare Medicare Advantage Plan. They give you more support, more access, and more benefits in addition to your VA benefits. Visit wellcareforveterans.com today or call 844-917-1165. Ohana Health Plan, a plan offered by WellCare Health Insurance of Arizona, Inc. New Mexico dual eligible special needs plan members. As a WellCare by Allwell DSMP member, you have coverage from both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid services are funded in part by the state of New Mexico. New Mexico Medicaid benefits may be limited to payment of Medicare premiums for some members.
All right, Alphas, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. I know I did. The power is out in my apartment. I have no heat or water, so I'll be grateful when that comes back on. And in the meantime, I'll be chilly. If you see me chattering over here, that's why. Just trying to stay warm with my endless questions. I am super excited for our guest today. He has had an amazing career. Right now he works as a national security terrorism analyst for NBC. Everybody, please welcome General Barry McCaffrey. Hello, Barry. How are you today?
Good to be with you.
Great to be with you too. And Stacy's going to kick us off with the first question.
Well, while she may be comfortable calling you Barry, I have a hard time calling a general that. So I'm going to say hello, sir. It's such an honor to meet you, and thank you for joining us. Also, thank you for your service. Between your storied Army career and your post-military career, your knowledge and expertise has been tapped into a ton. So I would like to really start there, General. Can you give our alphas a sort of overview about what's happening in the world globally right now and how it impacts us? I know that's a really broad question, but I thought I'd start with a super huge one.
Well, look, it's a troubled world. I mean, if you read the front page only of the latest newspapers and you're watching the tragedy of Ukraine being invaded by Putin's criminal enterprise, the poor Israelis fighting for their survival, their very existence, the mass tragedies in Central America and the northern tier of South America, where millions of people trying to stay alive, fleeing economic collapse and injustice. It's easy to see this as a calamity, an Armageddon going on in the global community. There is a good argument that we have never been safer in the country's history. If you back off enough, you'll say, look, there's 2.1 million men and women in the active Guard and Reserve components of the most technologically advanced military in the face of the earth. Our economy is still #1 in the globe. Our agricultural system feeds a good bit of the world, never mind us. Manufacturing, depending on how you count it, we're still the leading enterprise on the face of the earth in high-tech manufacturing. I mean, you go through the whole list of things. And by the way, we have the most civil society, by and large, except for gun murders, probably on the globe also. So things are actually a lot better than many of us seem. The problem we may have is political division and anger. So I've been pretty disappointed in our national political leadership. You go to state government, county government, cities, basically, we've got some pretty decent people trying to keep the country going. So I think we're in fairly good shape, to be blunt.
Okay. It's funny. Ashley, were you talking about state politics or?
Oh, we were talking earlier, we were talking about different states' rights and how you go from, I travel a lot, Stacy travels a lot. We go from state to state and you get confused with which law am I breaking here? Kind of a thing. What's interesting with what you're saying about how we're statistically the safest we've ever been, it does seem like there's, and there definitely are really horrific tragedies happening around the world. It sounds to me like it's a perception and marketing issue. In a sense, for the way that people receive their information now and how misinformation is shared. So I'm a stand-up comedian. I do a lot of things on social media. And I can tell you something that I've seen just within the last few weeks really ramping up is fake social media sites that will say exactly the same thing over and over again. So you go on Facebook and you can have it in a screenshot, 2 totally different pages saying exactly the same thing, which tells me that there's something else behind that. Why is this happening in 30 different ways? So it makes me wonder, is this other countries trying to divide us in a social media type way, or is it, political parties or what have it? But do you think that there's definitely issues there when it comes to the way we get news now?
Well, no question. I mean, it's an amazing challenge. It's going to be exacerbated by AI as it appears and even gives us greater tools to manipulate reality. And photoshopping, was 10 years ago. Now you can actually create holograms of people saying things they never said and with the right voice. So it's a new age of technology. I think there's 2 problems here. One is the lack of education at high school and college level on American civics and government. I've taught American government for years. I lecture in American government. I've worked at the most senior levels of American government for decades and interacted with Congress and the Supreme Court and the executive branch. And as a general statement, high school graduates have no conception how their state government works, how the federal government works. There's no upfront commitment to freedom of the press. They don't understand freedom of speech. So there's a problem. And, it's something we could correct if we had a mandatory 1 year of American history and government and say, look, this gem from the Revolutionary War that we got, this democracy, this republic, but you have to understand it. You have to vote. People don't vote. They don't vote in primaries. So there's one problem. Then the second one is disinformation. It's just astonishing. People have always had a tendency to listen to information that lines up with their own view of the world. So that's human nature. And it causes pain when you're listening to a message that it isn't integrated with your values. But having said that, we used to say, everybody read the same AP wires, the same news. There were 3 TV channels, the evening news. They were sort of pretty good. And now you can go and find extremist thought and listen only to that, whether it's the left, the right, the middle, you name it, satanic verses. You can find a community that may be isolated and minor in the American topography of politics, but that's what you listen to. So we're getting more and more divided. Some of this may be just technology, the internet, and the ability to ignore. Nobody watching the evening news now is for old people also. They're getting their news off TikTok and that sort of thing. So it's a challenge. We're going to have to think through this and do something about it, or we'll lose our democracy.
Yeah. I mean, coming from the journalism world myself, I mean, the military did me a great service and sent me to Syracuse, where I studied journalism. To see how things have evolved and maybe devolved a little bit in the newsroom was really interesting. But I want to key in on something you said too about politics and our younger generation. I think that's a really, really great point. And I think that's something that the American Legion is really trying to do through the Girls State and Boys State too. Hopefully that can expand out a little bit further into communities, But I do want to change course because I'm curious. You have, as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, a unique opportunity to see a little bit more about what's going on. And I thank you for the overview, by the way. What particularly can we glean regarding what's happening in the Ukraine and how that's affecting us here in the US?
Well, there's a good argument that the most powerful economy in the face of the earth is the United States. And by the way, we're fortunate that we live next to Canada and Mexico. Mexico's got problems, but essentially it's just giant economic community. The Central American and Mexican workers add enormous amount of power to our economy. We got 2 oceans, we're pretty safe. The other concentration, massive concentration of human wealth, education, technology is Europe. Europe is at stake going forward. Poor Mr. Putin is a criminal. He's not very bright. He's gotten this rump institution of the Russian Federation in tremendous economic and political trouble. He is 140 million people. It's no longer the Soviet Empire with legions of, Belarusians and Romanians in the Warsaw Pact. They're in trouble. But he's run 3 invasions now and gotten away with it. In Chechnya, Georgia, Crimea. Now he's fighting not just to grab the eastern part of Ukraine, the Donbass. He's fighting to dominate the Ukraine. He's saying, no, you're not a state. You're going to be part of the Russian Empire again. Next up, Poland, Romania, the Baltic states, Finland. So we have a confrontation going on. We thought warfare was going away. We thought that was the end of confrontation in Europe. It's not. The Ukrainians have a strong. They're not a perfect state in any way. They're still balkanized. They have individual ethnic minorities in the country. They had a tremendous problem with corruption. Their whole Soviet empire, when they came apart, was a mass of thieves. But Ukraine said, we want to be part of Europe. We want to be part of the capitalist economy of Europe. We want to have a values-based government, and they're willing to fight for it. That's what they're doing. If they don't have the outside support of Europe and the United States with humanitarian, economic, and military aid, they will get ground into dust and go under. They're actually doing pretty good. They fought off, there's only 40 million Ukrainians. They've managed to fight off the Russians now for 2 years.
I know, it's crazy.
And they're creating a democratic state and a law-based state. But they're at great risk and they deserve our support because our interests are also in peril in the Ukraine.
So what does it
What do
mean
you-
if, sorry, go ahead, Ashley.
What do you think of the argument that the U.S. needs to just, like, I see this pop up a lot. The U.S. needs to just mind its own business, stay away from other people's problems. We need to take care of our own people. What do you think about that?
Well, we certainly tried that in 1939. It didn't work out too well. The Nazis ended up dominating most of Europe. Had we done that facing the Russian Soviet Empire in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, we would have found our economic and political interests worldwide. Our purpose in the global economy is obvious, but it's also our purpose in the global political system to have a rules-based environment. And so that involves international leadership. Not just, colonialism of the Brits in the 18th, 19th century, but also standing up for other democracies. We want to, for example, not have the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So we've given a back sort of field guarantee to non-nuclear states that our deterrence will apply to them. So, the notion that we can go back to 1936 or something and say we're going to ignore the world is utter nonsense. We're integrated in that global economy, and we have interests of maritime freedom of movement that we have to protect. It would be a disaster if we said, no, we're just worried about Connecticut.
I agree. I agree.
You mentioned leadership early on, and what I'd like to ask you is, you once said, "I've only met a handful of near perfect leaders in my life." So my question to you is, what is your definition of a perfect leader?
I've forgotten about that. I did a lot of leadership lectures around the world, and that was one of them. And I'd say I've only met a few, and none of them are in this room. And that includes me. So, I have met some phenomenal people. Colin Powell is one of my heroes. I have to tell you, he's a humility, hard work, thoughtful judgment, commitment to being servant leadership. So I've met some people that have damn few flaws. Most of us are doing the best we can, and we're doing pretty good. And so when it comes to leadership, essentially, and there's different, leadership is always situational. There's no absolute. There isn't, here's how you act if you're in charge of 50 people or 50,000. And I've been in charge of both. So it depends on the situation. And, there's a difference between being chief of staff of the U.S. Army and being the president of the Red Cross. And this came from a lecture I gave to the National Red Cross meeting, where the president said, we're both the largest volunteer organizations in the world, but there's quite a bit of difference in how the leadership is applied. But at the end of the day, we first of all, out of leaders, we want them to be experts at what they're doing. This nonsense, if you have a nice MBA degree, you can run anything, is just not the case. It helps to know what you're doing. And that means a lifelong commitment to personal development, to education, to having a sense of what's going on in the organization below you, because you were there. So there's one aspect, you got to be an expert. And the second thing we want people, and you get, this is also developed, you're not born with it. We want people of character. We want the company commander. She's a West Pointer. She knows what she's doing. She's been to the advanced course, but mostly when we look at her, we say, she's the first one to get on a assault helicopter, the last one in the food line. She deals with us in a respectful manner. She steps forward and makes sure we get the. You want somebody of character. There's the third one. And then finally, I think at the end of the day, You're trying to get people to do hard things on time with limited resources, and that requires somebody with a plan. You got to have a plan. And frequently, when you see a failure of an organization, by the way, it takes a long time to build an elite organization that works real good, not perfectly, but real good and almost there. It takes a very short period of time to wreck one. Leadership is everything.
Yeah.
You know, you may disagree with me on this, but I think another piece of leadership is not being afraid to lose your job to do the right thing. So somebody that comes to mind for that for me right now, he's still in General Minahan. He's the Air Mobility Command Commander, 4-star, and he's a great guy in person. He speaks very well, which, you know, a lot of generals can do. But then when you see the things that he puts out and the memos and the way that he is leading everyone, it's obvious he's not afraid to do what he is taking that many years of experience to go and do whatever the right thing is, even if he ends up in the news with people saying, well, why did you say this? Or why'd you say that? Well, I thought that was the right thing. And that's what I needed to do. He put out a memo that said, hey, I need everybody to go shoot the gun. And in the Air Force, they're like, what? What do you mean we got to go to the range? You know, made a big show of it. And, you know, I was like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Break away from the bureaucracy. Made me feel good.
Yeah. Let me offer, though, not a counterpoint, but a point. And I used to love to tell this to, you know, new lieutenants class at the infantry school. I've 2 years at the infantry school as the sort of dean of students, who was assistant commandant. And I used to tell them, look, you know, when you get out there, you can have all this fresh training and you're some tired old captain you're working for. And when he tells you to do something, you'll say, boy, that doesn't make any sense. This is nonsense. You go in there and argue with them and tell them. Every now and then, when your boss is telling you something you vehemently disagree with, keep a thought in the back of your mind that you may be about to learn something.
Yes.
So, you know,
isn't that the truth?
I've been sort of hyper aggressive a good bit of my life. And that line I use on me all the time. Keep in mind, you may be about to learn something.
You know,
You also got to understand the broader challenges that are your boss may be facing, or your boss's boss, or the context of what's going on in America at the time. So that's one of the reasons that senior military guys don't do very well in politics. By and large, we're looking for the solution. And then once we've argued it out, we've heard all your views, this is what we're going to do. Shut the blank up and do what I told you to do. That doesn't work in most of leadership situations in the political realm. So accommodation is part of allowing things to move forward. You know, I was on an engineering design firm board, which I loved. These brilliant young people, thousands of them, 5,000 person. And one of our projects wasn't going anywhere. And we were the design people, and there was the people that were supposed to do the job, and it was a Spanish firm, European firm. And my project manager said, they don't want to work with us. I said, well, why is that? He said, well, in this state, in this city, the giant project we were working on, they said there's zero corruption in the political system, and so there's no fluid to make things happen. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I used to tell the local politicians that there's no corruption at all. People don't even call the Department of Transportation. So life is not all that it should be. But the military guys tend to have a different approach. They'll say, no, we're going for a solution that we can execute on time with the resources we got. And that doesn't always work in other areas of life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I will say one of the the rude awakenings I had when I got out of service was that the civilian sector has a different pace of working and different expectations. So definitely had to learn to adapt a different way of thinking.
Oh, that's right. You know, and I was the lead up to Desert Storm. I was the division commander. Actually, I learned this as the battalion executive officer in Germany, and you know, and I used to call my battalion staff meetings precisely to the minute at midnight, because
No.
no way you could tell me you had something else you had to be doing. Oh, the S1, 2, 3, they'd all have to trek in at midnight. We have a nice meeting until 1 o'clock in the morning and then go back to sleep in a snowbank or wherever.
Oh my God. At least then you know they won't run over. Nobody
Yeah.
will talk too long.
Yeah.
So what, you are an expert in all of these strategies and our national security. What are you worried about?
Oh, you know, first of all, I think being worried is a really useful aspect of your personality. You know, I tell people the reason I'm still alive is because I'm the first one in any group I'm in to get scared. And I start acting on it almost immediately. And I can remember why I got scared when it comes up in the future. So worrying is a very useful protective tool. You know, I had 4 combat tours, 3 of them as a company grade officer. My company from Vietnam, 68, 69, we're still all really close. We still take care of each other. And they were a bunch of 19-year-old boys, and I have 35-year-old first sergeant and 25-year-old me. And one of the reasons we had so few casualties is because I was scared to death all the time. So there's things to worry about. I think you got to put it in context. And you know, right now, if you told me what the biggest single concern I have is that the lack of consensus, civility, pragmatism in national political leadership. It is outrageous. And I don't mean one party. I think the 2-party system has served us so well to amalgamate different concerns and to broker concerns, but it's coming apart on us now. So I'm worried about national leadership. That's it. How do we get a sense? And part of it's education. I swear, it's just lack of teaching civics, of understanding the magic of Jefferson, Washington, you know, the creators of the Constitution, what we got given. And so I'm concerned about that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry if you heard a little rattling. My dog, who's featured in my little picture, come on, Charlie, was saying hi. Charlie, up. He was saying hi and being very, very noisy while you were talking. So I'm very sorry. Thank you for that insight. And I think you're absolutely right. Being worried is a good thing. It makes you think and stretch a little bit. I know now he's being noisy. A little off topic. I'm very curious because we always see the forward-facing general. And I'm wondering, you know, the NBC analyst and the president of the BR McCaffrey Associates, you're a well-known public figure. What is a fun fact about you, or perhaps a hobby or an interest that we wouldn't necessarily know?
Well, an enormous amount of my personal base has been tied up in families. So we got 3 children. They're all married to decent people, 6 grandchildren. A lot of this is luck, by the way. Luck is a huge factor in life. All 6 grandchildren always got a drug problem, alcohol problem. They're decent people. They hang around with girlfriends, boyfriends of similar character. So an awful lot of what I'm up to is party planner for 20 people. You know, it's Thanksgiving, we all come together. There's touch football. The boys all go pheasant hunting. The girls all go wine tasting. So we spend a lot of time together. And fortunately, we're all basically in the state of Washington. And, you know, within 2 of our families are within walking distance. Now the grandkids are all grown up, getting married and disappearing. But So it's family-oriented life. Other than that, me and my dog, and pretty happy in life. I got a golden retriever. Normally, that when a lot of these podcasts or Zoom interviews or national TV, you'll see a golden retriever tail go by behind me in the living room.
I love it.
I love a little drop. Yes.
Well, Stacy, do you have anything else that you'd like to ask?
Just that I don't have anything to ask. Just want to say it's an honor to meet you, sir, and thank you for taking the time today.
Well, it's good to be with
Absolutely.
all of you, and thanks to the American Legion for all they do for our veterans. There's better part of 18 million of us who are veterans. We all serve, we all love this country, and this is a great organization for you to be part of.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to look more into General McCaffrey, you can go to McCaffreyAssociates.com or check him out as the National Security and Terrorism Analyst for NBC News. As you can see, he's very knowledgeable on it. And also, hey, maybe go take a civics class. I think that's what we've taken today. I'm going to go do it. That's our go-dos. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And everyone, please stick around until we come back after the break.
To look out for those that served, we must be relentless. To influence Washington to do the right thing, not just for our veterans, but for the country, we must be organized. To inspire the next generation of leaders, we must be united. We must be Legion, the American Legion. Join today at legion.org/join.
All right, Alphas, welcome back. Now it's time for some scuttlebutt. Stacy, what do you got?
Hey, Ashley, let's see if you can guess who this person is. They once said, I learned to assemble a rifle in the dark and was trained as a sniper so that I could hit the center of the target every time after time. Any guesses?
My Aunt Sheila?
Ooh, no. Here's another one. Okay, so this person also said, a lesson taught with humor is a lesson retained. How about now?
Barbara Bush.
Oh, she's badass, but nope. We got one more here. This one's a bit on the PG/R-rated side. So, and I'm quoting, when it comes to sex, the most important 6 inches are the ones between your ears.
That was definitely my dad.
Ooh, nope, sorry. These are all quotes from the amazing Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who was a Holocaust survivor, trained sniper, and sex therapist. Ashley.
I love Dr. Ruth.
I do too. Did you know that she was recently appointed ambassador to loneliness to help fight the loneliness epidemic? At 95, she's out there addressing the growing issue of social isolation. That's crazy. That's no excuse either. If you're 95 years old, get out there and join her on this this wonderful mission to fight loneliness.
Dr. Ruth, I mean, you're bringing up some weird feelings for me because Dr. Ruth was basically my teenage years staying up late at night watching Dr. Ruth on TV. And I mean, what a spicy lady she is.
She's quite short, but she's got so much personality. She feels
so much personality. It taught us a lot of skills back in the day. She was very useful. Go check her out on YouTube. I think that's awesome. I'm going to see she's out there. What a life she's had. Holocaust survivor, trained sniper, sex therapist. She's just like, I'm going to do it all.
Yeah. And hey, Alphas, if you're feeling lonely, go check her out. That's amusing. But in the meantime, also let us know what you're feeling, why you're feeling it. Drop us a line. We want to hear from you. And send us an email, tangoalphalima@legion.org.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't typically get lonely because of all the voices in my head, but if I do, I will definitely email. All right, let's see what else we got. Since 1960, the emergency alert system has used that all too familiar tone to broadcast warnings across the country. According to an Associated Press article, FEMA felt the need to reassure everyone that the signal has no ill or adverse effect on humans. Why the need to tell folks that a tone can hurt you? Well, some people believe that the warning tone will activate technology they believe has been implanted in humans during their COVID vaccinations. Oh my God. Okay. Once activated, these vaccinated people will become the puppets of the government, walking zombies, if you will. Rest assured, dear Alphas, there will be no zombie apocalypse. You cannot say that, American Legion. You don't eat those words. Independent scientists have spoken out. Are they zombies? They might be zombie apologists, including one who said these claims are nonsense. And we thank you, Dr. Obvious, for clearing that up. While annoying to the ears, the warning tone will remain simply a tool to alert us that there's a nationwide emergency and not the activation of an army of Walking Dead. If there's an army, is there also an Air Force of Walking Dead? Let's see, right?
Well, I feel like there has to be.
There would, of course, there would have to be. But hey, alphas, take a minute to remove your tinfoil hats and email us your favorite conspiracy theories. Oh my God, super producer Holly, you want to read these? Okay. All right. Okay, here we go, opening this up. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory, Stacy?
Well,
she's like, the ones I believe in, actually.
Well, I watch some conspiracy theory television shows. I've seen some on UFOs and things like that. The Bigfoot is real. I'm a firm believer in that. So I think probably somewhere in that realm.
Okay, you're a Bigfoot. What about the Yeti? Because the Yeti is just Bigfoot's cold cousin.
You know what? Yes. And the Heatmeister and Mr. Freeze exist too. And Frosty the Snowman.
I used to believe in ghosts, and it turned out I just needed glasses. I also worked at Radio Shack, and when I worked at Radio Shack, we had all these bits and parts and pieces, and I would have guys come in that would literally have tinfoil hats on. Underneath their cowboy hat, they would have tinfoil, and then they brought in a tap light that you would attach to your wall, it just runs by batteries. And he would tell me that this is how he communicated with the aliens, and he would ask me to fix it. And I'm like, I can give you batteries. I don't know. But he would come in all the time. There's also a News of the Weird magazine in New Jersey, and there's pictures of people that cover all of their house in foil to keep that out. And I don't think that Reynolds Wrap really is taking responsibility for the impact that they are having on the conspiracy community, because they are being propped up.
You know what's not a conspiracy, Ashley, is that my cell phone listens to everything I say. Because I swear to you, I'm going to wrap up this podcast and suddenly we'll have a whole slew of advertisements about zombie movies or zombie books or zombie apocalypse. So,
well,
gosh, thank you, Ashley, for now flooding my phone.
Now you're going to get Dr. Ruth and zombies. I've talked to comm people about that, and apparently it is because of what your internet is looking at. So let's say you let me on your internet, and we're both I'm looking at something, it'll start to push ads for the things that I'm looking at to you. And then we may have had a conversation or something like that, but it also is scanning the things that is on your page as opposed to it listening.
That makes sense, because you were on my internet recently, and now a bunch of lace doilies are popping up from Amazon. What were you looking for?
It's nothing but filth. Tell you what.
All right. Fashion icons, Ashley. Are you familiar with Ray-Bans?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Hey, so before Tom Cruise wore them in Top Gun, they were worn by real-life military aviators over 50 years prior. So Ray-Bans were used to block light out. In fact, did you know that the iconic glasses were developed by Bausch & Lomb for the Army Air Corps in the 1930s? These famed aviators hit the civilian market in roughly 1937 and have remained fashion icons to this day. Recently, they were spotted on the face of Taylor Swift even. I got to say, Ray-Bans have some major staying power. Ashley, you're an influencer. Do you have a pair of Ray-Bans?
I influence my cat, if that's what you mean. Do I have a pair of Ray-Bans? I have several pairs of Ray-Bans. Let me tell you how I buy sunglasses, Stacy. I go on eBay and I buy pre-scratched glasses.
Huh.
I'm going to scratch them anyway. Why the heck would I pay full price? So I'm sorry, Ray-Bans. I am propping up the small business economy, not big Ray-Ban. I don't know if you know this as well. APs has recently come into a partnership with Sunglass Hut. So you can buy Ray-Bans and they have their own person that works within the BX, the PX, the NAX, the MAX, wherever you are. But yeah, I buy them pre-scratched because I know I'm going to drop them. And why do I want to feel bad about myself?
My husband always wears the top of the line Ray-Bans and such. And he wanted me to start wearing them. So I got a pair and I scratched the hell out of them. And I'm like, I feel like every scratch costs $50. I'm just not into it. So Nikon started giving away these cute little sort of 80s inspired sunglasses, and I just collected a whole handful at one of their expos and have been wearing those ever since.
Yeah. Well, you know what I like about Ray-Bans is they're typically made in Italy. So, you know, I try to buy things that are made in countries that like us, and that's one of my priorities when it comes to my thousands and thousands of pairs of sunglasses. But yeah, so they're pretty good.
Well, Alphas, do you agree with us? What's your stance on Ray-Bans? Do you prefer the Aviator or the Wayfarer? Email us because we've got to know.
We gotta know. We gotta know. Hey, don't forget to send us your entries for the Tango Mike Awards. Are you doing anything good in your posts, in your legions, in your life? We're getting close to choosing our February winner, but don't worry, we'll keep reviewing submissions for next month. Please, no more nude photos. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, our newsletter. Super producer Holly was like, wait a minute, or send us mail guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Lima. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to your people, and we want to hand out these awards. Thank you so much for joining us, Alphas. Until next time, goodbye.
Yeah, I think I like it.